Anelka has said he was merely showing support for a friend, a controversial French comedian called Dieudonné, whose shows have been banned over alleged anti-Semitism. Newsnight discussed the case with David Baddiel, comedian turned novelist and filmmaker, who's a Chelsea supporter and has campaigned against anti-Semitism in football.
Well, I didn't know what the gesture was when he made it, as I'm sure most people didn't know. I'd never seen it before. I had to be told that it was a canal and that is an inverted Nazi salute, and so I didn't particularly have a thought about it at all. But then I think where I became more interested in it was in the fact that Anelka defended himself by saying that he was only trying to show support for his friend Dieudonné. And Dieudonné, who I am aware of, is a kind of enormous anti-Semite. So what struck me as odd about that, particularly because it became a kind of acceptable defence, is that Anelka seemed to be saying, no, it's not anti-Semitic, it's just a gesture in support of my friend, the enormous anti-Semite. And that's the point at which I thought, well, something's not quite right here, because if I'd made some kind of anti-immigration gesture, and then said, no, that was just in support of my friend Nick Griffin, I think people would say, no, that doesn't make it okay. But I think, to be fair to Nicholas Anelka, I think probably the greater resonance of what someone like Dieudonné is doing is not something he gives much thought to. So I think what needs to be understood, and this is important, is that in France, as far as I can make out, kind of anti-government, anti-establishment behaviour from people like Dieudonné has become very mixed up with kind of anti-Semitic behaviour, such that when I tweeted about this, I tweeted about how it seems to me like if you're supporting Dieudonné, then you are anti-Semitic in some way. A French person tweeted me back to say, no, you don't understand. It's just anti-government, anti-French government, and anti-the Zionist cabal. And I thought, well, in my sense of, the word Zionist cabal, you're probably getting quite close to anti-Semitism.
Is it more complicated, nuanced, if you like, because Dieudonné is a comedian, therefore it's a matter of free speech censorship rather than, a rabble-rousing politician?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, I don't know much about Dieudonné. I haven't gone to see Dieudonné do 20 minutes at the Paris Comedy Store, but I think he's not a comedian like Michael McIntyre is a comedian. I think Dieudonné is a kind of provocateur, as understood in France, and he's totally should be fine to do that. What I think is complicated is that, as far as I understand it, Dieudonné's done a film called The Anti-Semite, which is not an ironic film about anti-Semitism. It is a very anti-Semitic movie. As far as I can make out, Dieudonné's targets are the French establishment and Jews. It's not like he attacks everyone equally, and I think, as I say, I think there's an alignment in his mind and his supporters' minds between the French establishment and the Jews. I don't know whether he should be banned or not. I'm not that interested in whether things should be banned, although I think one of the key things, and this is often missed out, is that once you start banning things, so if you are banning people for using racist language towards black people or racist language towards Asian people, then you also have to ban them for using racist language towards Jewish people. For the FA, there are two problems. One is they do have to balance the fact that the player is saying, well, I didn't intend it to be any kind of anti-Semitic gesture, and I think, I have no reason to disbelieve him. And then there is another issue which I think is going on here, which is I think the guardians of anti-racism do feel that it is more complex when the person who might be being racist is themselves from an ethnic minority, particularly if it's a black person. It's more complicated for them, and I think they do think, oh, well, we don't want to be seen to be attacking a black person when our job is to protect ethnic minorities.
Property website Zoopla have announced they're not renewing their sponsorship of Anelka's club, West Bromwich Albion.
One thing I do think is a little bit weird is that all the papers are really telling you that the head of Zoopla is a Jewish businessman. Like, I haven't read about this story without the papers making it clear that this is a Jewish businessman. And I'd kind of like to think that you could be of any race or religion and perhaps object to someone doing a Nazi salute as a celebration.
A lot of fans still shout this word, and it begins with why.
David Baddiel made a film for the football authorities urging fans not to chant the word Yid. It's often been heard at White Hart Lane, where Spurs have a history of Jewish support. But some home fans use the Y word themselves, saying they're reclaiming it.
Spurs fans are completely correct to say that they think they do it in a different way to the way that Chelsea fans do it. That is absolutely right. And so therefore all that has to go into the mix when you're trying to get to a place at the end of the day where anti-Semitism is not on the terraces anymore. It is complicated, it is nuanced, and then you have to think, okay, well, what is the best way around this? And I think hopefully it's all heading in the right direction. But there's some bumps along the way.